Welcome to In My Feelings, a safe space to talk all things NBA. I'm your host, Big Woz, a.k.a. Wosny Lambre, and we got a very special show for you guys today, man. We're talking to Nat Butler, one of the founding members of NBA Photo. He's got a literally NBA Hall of Fame career that spans over 4 decades, man. Captured the likes of Michael Jordan, Julius Erving, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Steph, LeBron, Kobe, you name it. He's been there, and we got him in studio today to talk about his Hall of Fame career. We got that plus a little bit more, man. Can't wait for you guys to check this out. Welcome to the show, Nat Butler, man, NBA Hall of Famer. One of the greatest photographers in the history of the profession. And, you know, I was joking to one of my colleagues outside, you literally invented your job with the NBA. There was no, photography department within the league itself. And you went to the higher ups and said, I think we should do this. How does that happen?
I needed a job. Yeah, that's how it all came about. There was a guy, Andy Bernstein, who everyone is familiar with, on the West Coast. He was in L.A. And I was in New York, and we kind of put our heads together and said, hey, we love this. We gotta make this a little more official.
Man, so cool. And your story, I really love, because I'm a New York City guy. You growing up out in Long Island, right. Which to me is New York City. I know people are like, oh, it's Suffolk County. To me, it's the same thing.
Right.
It's an appendage of Brooklyn and Queens. You pick up a camera at 12 years old, so you're a bit of a photography prodigy.
You know what? Like, in those days, like, Sports Illustrated was king. Mm-hmm. Every Thursday, I'd run to the mailbox. They had tremendous staff of writers in those days, but I would look at the pictures first and then read the articles second. But I played hoops. I loved playing hoops. Throughout high school, you get to college, and there was a little talent gap.
Sure.
I knew I couldn't play.
Sure.
I went to St. John's, and St. John's at the time was big time with Chris Mullin, Mark Jackson, Walter Berry. So I was taking pictures for the school newspaper and was friends with all those guys, and it just sort of evolved from that.
You get this job with the NBA in 1984. Right at the cusp of when things are sort of changing for the league. Like, you're already a fan of the NBA and basketball generally. Do you have a sense that, like, you're part of something huge?
You know, it's a great question. At the time, for me, I was young and wide-eyed, and I didn't really grasp what was going on, to be quite honest. I was so excited just to be a part of it. But at the time, that was when, again, under David Stern's leadership, they really made a focus of wanting to expand internationally. So there was a need for content. There were magazines in Japan, French, German, Australia, even back then, was big hoops fan, but they're not sending photographers over to games,
Gotcha.
So we would shoot a lot of quote-unquote stock stuff to fill their magazines then. So it's just kind of being in the right place at the right time a little bit.
Man, I feel like that's an understatement because of all of the people that are shot in this incredible book, Courtside, 40 Years of NBA Photography. Literally anybody who matters in the game. I would say, like, that era that you started kind of ushered in what we now know as the NBA, right? Like, just this global, huge sport, individual stars whose celebrity rivals anybody within entertainment. And you hop right in and you're just handed guys like Bird, like Magic, like Mike. Like, this is amazing.
Right. It was stressful for me what gets in the book, what doesn't. You could do 100 pages on MJ or LeBron.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to get some variety.
Gotcha.
I'm a fan. I love the off the court stuff in the locker room, those kind of moments of solitude before, after a game, and just kind of mix it up that way.
There's a couple of things I wanted to specifically talk to you about as somebody who, whose job is also to document the league in a different way. Sometimes you're at a big game, right? And like, as media, you're not supposed to cheer. Like, that's your job. Right. You see somebody get dunked on in a big moment, you're supposed to just sit still, not say anything. And that's like considered to be hard. Then I read about what your work entails in these crazy, chaotic moments where Magic Johnson is making one of the biggest shots ever in his life, a baby sky hook. You have to capture it, right? Then you go to your room and develop
Right,
it,
right.
direct that. Like, that's crazy.
Right.
Like, as a media member, you think it's so hard to be stiff-lipped and all of that. Like, you actually have to perform in the moment, in the midst of all of this craziness. Could you like just talk about what that's even like, man?
You know what? It's you really, because I am a fan, right? We're all fans. I love the game. It's a beautiful game. It lends itself to beautiful photography, but you really have to be dialed in at all times. You can't let your emotions get the best of you. In a game like that, you're looking at the clock. Do they have a timeout? Do they not have a timeout? Like you do have to really know what's going on. But in those days, we're shooting film, so it's not like looking at the back of the camera with digital now to see if you got the shot.
Right.
So a shot like that, like literally 2 hours, I'm like a wreck wondering if you get it. Is it info? Is it info?
crazy.
We're not using autofocus. We're not
Right.
doing this. So yeah, after those games, I would go back to the hotel and develop the black and white film in the hotel room. Things are a little different now
Yeah.
with the digital. And that sort of, I think, kept me young too, is the transition from film into digital and the technology and stuff. It makes it really exciting.
I want to get to some of these moments because just going through this book, like I'm 37, so much of my coming of age and my fandom and obsession with the NBA was documented by you. Like so much of this, and I started getting so nostalgic going through your book, and immediately on like the first page, it's the slam cover of the 1996 draft class. I remember reading this issue. I remember looking at the picture of these dudes. I thought they looked so freaking cool. Like they looked like superheroes, literally. And I remember the issue like so well. Like in the back, like Slam had a survey of all their writer and editorial staff where they're like, who's the rookie the most likely to average 20 points, most likely to average 10 assists. I remember Steph like led in most. Marbury led in most likely to average 10 assists, but like this issue is so iconic to me. Kobe, Steve Nash, Marbury, Ray Allen, Sharif Abdul-Rahim, Antoine Camby. It's like, well, Iverson didn't make it. We can talk about that. But what do you remember? Do you remember this
Yeah,
day?
because again, like I'm a fan, and most of those guys, me being based in New York, I would do a lot of the Big East games at the Garden, so I was familiar with that. I knew Ray Allen. I certainly knew Steph Marbury.
Wow.
You know, Camby I knew from UMass, so I knew a lot of the guys. You know, not personally, but I knew their game. You know, obviously Kobe, people knew of him, but didn't really see a lot of him. The Slam people, we worked with them putting the cover together. So the cover was a big deal. It's still to this day. Like I said earlier, when I was a kid, Sports Illustrated was king. But transitioning into Slam, like these young guys, like it was more prestigious for them to be on Slam, quite honestly, than to be on a Sports Illustrated. So it was a big deal, but it's nerve-wracking. Like 96, we're still shooting film. So I probably clicked the button maybe 6 or 8 times.
Wow.
That's it. Like we had 5 minutes. You don't know if someone's blinking. You got to get them looking right at you. You know, the whole Iverson thing has kind of taken on some lore of its own.
For sure.
You know,
Him not being in there,
him not being there, because if you look at it, Kobe's his left hand is hidden a little because he had a cast on his hand, and AI, who I loved because I saw him at Georgetown.
Of course.
He was going to be like kneeling right in there, and there was just some confusion about the timing of things because he was in town.
AI being
and then
late,
he left.
that's never
then he
happened
left.
before. You know, and hearing you say you took 7 pictures in total, the audience out there, anybody who's got a girlfriend and has ever tried to take a picture for your girlfriend, it's gonna take you more than 7 times to get a decent shot with the digital.
That's where the stress comes in. No Photoshop, no nothing. Like you have to literally, and that is very stressful. There's no doubt about that.
Just some of these other moments I thought were just incredible. You were at Mike's slam dunk contest when he jumped from the free throw line,
Right?
Like that, and the shots you got were absolutely breathtaking and amazing. You know, I feel like the NBA was building out that All-Star weekend sort of thing at that time. What do you remember about doing that and being around Mike in those early days?
I think he, from day one, had that aura. He still has,
right?
You know, There's just something magnetic, whether it's a movie star, basketball, crazy athlete. Like there's some kind of aura that he still has to this day. And that All-Star game in '88, being in Chicago, was a little bit of the passing of the torch, his coming out party. He had been in the league, I guess 4 or 5 years at that point. But it was the All-Star weekend was MJ's weekend.
Wow.
And I still remember the old Chicago Stadium, the vibe, the buzz in the crowd. And it just, again, I'm a fan, so it was just really cool to be a part of it.
Probably my favorite shot in the book is the Ray Allen shot in Game 6 against the Spurs in 2013, because you basically get that shot like at the top of his release, and it's picture perfect. Literally, again, talk about crazy atmospheres and chaos.
No, you
like
can't
to keep your composure and
you
get
can't,
that is
you
nuts.
You can't get lost in the moment, because I'm sitting there, I'm looking to the left of that frame is Pop getting ready to hug Tim Duncan. They would win another championship. The rope is out. They have the security in the yellow, so the fans aren't running on the court. And the craziest thing about that was it didn't surprise me at all that Ray hit that shot. We were at the arena so early setting up our gear and doing tests, and I've known Ray since his UConn days. He's there 3 hours, 4 hours before a game, and the person that kept their composure most, I think, on that whole sequence was Bosh. Bosh, teams rush. Like Bosh gave it to Ray, started backpedaling immediately right to the 3-point line, and I'm following the ball, and I'm like, he hit the shot. Oh, didn't surprise me at all, because that's what he does,
So you're watching the game and setting up your shot at the same time.
Yeah, you know what? Not to equate myself to the players, but over the years, how players talk about the game slowing down for them? Similarly, for us that have been doing it a long time, it slows down, We're following the ball, we're following the action, but you sort of know the characteristics, the flow of the game.
Sure.
And literally that's a perfect example of not getting too caught up in the moment. But literally, like I said, Pop hugging Duncan was, 5 seconds away from happening, them winning a championship. And then that shot changed LeBron wins 2 championships, not just one, in Miami. But that's what Ray does, and he had some great one of the cool things about the book is the players commenting and basically writing the captions for the photos. And Ray gives a very descriptive analysis of that whole moment. As does Kawhi. We were shocked to get Dave McMenamin got a nice Kawhi quote from that, and he's still scratching his head over not getting that rebound. But I think that's a cool component of the book in general.
That's good, man. Listen, as a fan and a lover of the game and the league, going through this book was just, I'm not gonna lie, just a pretty emotional experience for me. Just going back to thinking all these games that I watched, who I was with when I watched it with, how it made me feel. It's just incredible going through memory lane with you, and the fact that your artistry has just been so freaking transcendent and incredible, man. I think everybody should go check this thing out. And I want to thank you for coming up here with us today. Nat Butler, man, you're the best.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and I want to give Dave McMenamin a shout out. I have to stay in my lane with my photos. He did a lot of the writing, and his relationship with the players helped out a lot, getting all these quotes. So I appreciate you having me.
I love it. Shouts to Dave. All right, we just wanted to get into some current events, news and notes as it pertains to Joel Embiid, who the league has just suspended for 3 games following an incident between him and reporter Marcus Hayes in the Philadelphia 76ers locker room. Embiid took exception to some things that Hayes wrote about him, some harsh stuff he said about Embiid and his work ethic, and, questioned whether he's done enough to be on the court, his professionalism, etc. Even invoked Embiid's dead brother into the mix. Pretty ugly stuff all around. I think obviously Embiid overreacted. You can't put your hands on a grown man for something that they wrote in a freaking paper. I just like, you're Joel Embiid. You're an MVP in this league. You're an ambassador. You're one of the faces. Like, you just can't be seen to be behaving this unprofessionally. And so I guess the suspension is warranted. This Marcus Hayes dude, I don't know him. Don't have a professional or personal relationship with him. I can't speak to his character or any of that kind of stuff. I thought this stuff was a little bit out of bounds with the stuff with his brother, so that was unfortunate. And it was really ugly. I just think everybody loses here. Embiid just looks bad, unprofessional. Looks like a guy who can't manage his emotions and his temper. This Hayes dude, he makes the profession look bad. And then, the NBA and sports all across the board are like doing their best to limit media access in places like locker rooms and stuff. This kind of shit only serves to add fuel to that unnecessary fire. And then, of course, the fans lose out in this because Joel Embiid, who was supposed to come back against the Clippers, is now suspended another 3 games. It's just ugly all around. I hope the league doesn't take a lesson here to be more authoritarian in terms of its media shutout and blackout in terms of access. They don't need to behave like a banana republic here. I think they dealt with the situation in terms of disciplinary actions against Joel Embiid. That's enough. I hope they don't go even further than they have in terms of, decreasing media access. And I hope Embiid learns from this, man, and just learns how to keep his cool and keep it pushing. All right, folks, that's our show for today. Make sure you subscribe to the Ringers YouTube page. Hit that notification bell so that you are alerted every single time In My Feelings drops in your inbox every single Friday, man. And make sure you like this video every single time. The algorithm wants it and needs it. We will see you guys next week. Peace.